Hi, I'm Kurt from Oz Armour and welcome to Workshop Wednesday.
It's been a few months and a lot of prep work, but at long last we are finally ready to reassemble the StuG III transmission.
Check out this beauty, huh?
How'd you go cleaning all these?
A lot of patience, probably about 25 litres of kerosene, lots of compressed air. We're pretty happy it's pristine as it can be. It's been months since we pulled this thing apart. Every single bearing in the transmission needed to be replaced. What I've done here is just sort of a test fit. Just by dropping it in confirms that the bearings, new parts and things that were fitted to the transmission are all dimensionally correct. I think it's time to give Beau a bit of a break from whacking things with hammers over at that shed, and you can come over here and hit things with hammers in this shed.
In addition to hitting things with hammers, he's also been drawing up extra pieces we need, like these lock washers and this special gauze.
So this is the oil pump, and that gauze is to stop any large pieces of metal or anything getting in here and destroying the inside of it.
With everything carefully labelled and photographed, the boys take everything out of the housing and insert the oil manifold.
This is an oil manifold, where the oil travels through to get oil to the top part of the transmission.
These pipes here will actually squirt oil directly onto a component that needs extra oil. And at the back of the manifold there, you see that little channel that directs the oil to the input housing, which we've got to finish off and put on the back of the transmission.
So it's like bent in around the like the seat for the bearing.
Yeah, it's all made nice and snug. So keep it out of the way so it doesn't interfere with any gears or bearings. Castellated nut with a split pin through it.
Crazy. I mean, it's a good way of doing it, but
Yeah,
sheesh.
that'd probably be a good way to sabotage these.
Yes.
Don't put split pins in the castellated nuts.
Yeah, just leave it. Because it'd take a while before it actually did any damage.
And leave it loose. That's right, yeah. Not moving.
It's an 85-year-old piece of rubber that's still soft and as squishy as the day it was made,
Yep.
but it's not good enough just to have the spring pushing the rubber seal in, but you've also got to have a custom-made little washer on it as well too.
DRB. Wow, that's tiny.
So this goes in upside down to how you'd think it would.
Last weekend, we released a quick video showing how this unit went together and how it works. Definitely worth checking out.
Okay. That's the way.
Just like that, eh?
Oil pump fitted.
Oil pump is
And
fitted.
reusing the same washers that it came with, they're probably better than the ones that got made anyway.
They look like are in pretty good condition. So.
Righto.
Beautiful.
Look at that, eh?
Now it's time to assemble the bearing housing for the differential pinion gear.
Whoa!
Sorry, I didn't actually mean that.
This is a really heavy-duty 4-point contact bearing with a split outer.
It's all good. Maybe this one's supposed to go first.
No.
I'm joking.
This is the point in the transmission with the most violent forces acting on it, so it needs as much strength as possible.
And be generous with it. If only we had a special tool for this.
Ha!
Aha!
Wonder who made that.
Look at it.
They come in handy every now and then, don't they?
Oh man, it's hard to hold when you've got oily hands. Alright, you're almost there.
The cap is locked on with a wire that kind of looks like a bucket handle. It pushes through a hole in the cap into a corresponding hole in the sleeve. This also helps us know that we've tightened the cap up enough. To stop the wire coming out, the groove that it's seated in is peened over with a chisel. Now to fit the main output pinion. This part is what transmits power from the gearbox into the differential. Here, Steve has already fitted its bearing and drops a spacer over it.
That's good.
Go in the same spot.
So we don't want to go too far, isn't it?
While ducking over to the office to change the SD card, the boys got reverse gear fitted to the unit. I was assured that I didn't miss much. Finally, there's a precision fit bearing in a hit down hard against a 2-part washer. The washer has to be in 2 parts so that it can have an inner diameter small enough to lock into the groove in the main shaft.
How good is that?
You're going to leave that enough. Yep.
I'm just going to loosen it off. And that's still turning freely, which is good. Quarter of a hole out.
These are the original bolts, hey? With the holes in the middle?
Everything's all original. Not only drilled, but countersunk holes in for the lock wire to go through, right? So I even saved the original piece of lock wire. So,
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I'll try and reuse it. No.
Yeah. Really?
No.
Oh.
Or the retainer has torqued up onto the shaft to the same sort of position that it come off, which means even though there's microscopic differences in the bearings, new bearings, it's still all torqued up to the same amount.
To tighten this wire, Steve uses these special wire twister pliers, which work really well.
There you go. That'll do.
Beautiful.
I'm not gonna break it. Exactly how they did it back 85 years ago.
Now we move briefly onto the counter shaft.
The reason why we're jumping from the main shaft to the counter shaft is that this unit here sets the position of the counter shaft. We want to make sure that goes back together properly. And so we've got first driven gear and reverse gear here. So the engineers have built up an assembly that has a roller bearing which controls thrust. So it locates the shaft accurately in one position. And 2 roller bearings which gives you the load carrying in this direction here. So yeah, it's pretty clever.
Perfect. Number 2. Yeah.
spacer.
Spacer. Yep.
Spacer number 2.
Yep.
This retainer was impossible for us to remove on the original. Even though we had to destroy it, Glenn was able to make an identical copy on the lathe.
Follow the game.
I reckon that's fine, huh?
Yeah?
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
We know the retainer is done up tight enough because it's flush with the rest of the housing. Now it needs a hole drilled into it so it can be locked with a split pin.
Just drill it right through.
To stop any metal bits falling into the bearings, Beau positions a vacuum to where the drill will punch through.
Nice.
So that's actually the original split pin, Kurt.
That's it.
Sounds pretty good to me. Hear that nice,
Yeah,
hear
that's
that nice snapping sound.
After a bit of back and forth, we get a slight change of plan.
Taking the bearing in or out of the hub assembly, hitting that on first, and then we're going to put the spacers on, and then put the hub assembly over the top of all of this.
The reason for this was that since everything is such a tight fit, it was actually a lot easier to take the bearing inners out and fit them to the shaft separately, and then slide the outers carefully over them.
That's that for precision fit.
Whoa.
As you can see, trying to put the whole housing on with all its bearings would have been just about impossible for us.
Yep. I was waiting for that. Yep. That's just dirty bit of wood there too.
Time to drop both shafts in and check that the bearing carriers line up with the locating studs in the housing. The boys are happy with the positions of the first packs on each shaft, so on go the lock washers and nuts.
There we go.
Now it's time to take the main shaft back off and fit the rest of the gears.
What gear is this?
This is first gear.
So what are we assembling now, Steve?
So we're assembling the first and second gear synchronizer hub. We all see these huge big gears with these huge big teeth, but it's actually these little spur gears here, or dog teeth they call them, which engages with the dog teeth on the inside. That is what also transfers the power together. So the gears are in mesh, but you've got all of the engine power going through these tiny little dog teeth. You always think to yourself, how can that possibly do the job? When you go to push it into gear, this synchronizing sleeve gets pushed into the direction of the gear, right? And these sliders, synchronizer sliders, I guess you'd call it, are spring loaded with a cam. In order for the slider to move, it's got to overcome spring tension. So when you push it in the direction of the gear, there's going to be a certain amount of tension on that to push the spring backwards, which allows the synchronizer hub to actually go and fully engage with the gear.
Now,
It's locked in properly.
I just have to hold it in because it's jumping over because it's got no spring pressure.
Let me that hold down.
Alright. Hang on, now the screwdriver.
Screwdriver.
Aha.
Right.
Push it in a bit more. Oh. No. Oops, sorry. It's alright. Here we go.
I felt that move in.
Now,
With
we
the
need to push it
screwdriver?
in.
Right.
Yeah, I am. Stop, stop, stop. Did
Man.
you hear it click?
So what gear is this,
This
Steve?
is second gear.
Just in case you weren't confused enough, here's another component of the gear changing mechanism, the second gear's synchro mesh plates.
They use a pack of clutches inside the gear hub that when you go to change gear, puts pressure on these plates, squeezing them together, which then locks the gear, which is rotating on the shaft, to shaft speed, so that the gear goes in smoothly. So it's a form of synchromesh, but it's a type of synchromesh that I've never seen before.
I even put it in the same groove.
How's that, huh?
At least we know it's not going to fall down.
The washer. There we go.
So what gear is this one?
Third gear.
Third gear.
Oh, they're nice hits. Alright, that's not moving at all. So that is telling us that it's hard down on the circlip as well.
This is fifth gear. Makes a nice change, it going on so easy.
Synchro hub.
Synchro hub assembly. Just have to use this specially made tool.
I got it.
What's
this one?
So this is 6th gear.
Top gear.
Top gear. So I can't imagine a situation where the tank would ever be in 6th gear. Oh, that is good.
Wow, nice lift.
We'll know we've assembled the shaft properly if all of the holes on the bearing carriers fit into their corresponding stud on the transmission housing.
Hey, this isn't nerve-wracking at all, is it? Stop. Makes a nice satisfying noise, doesn't it?
Sure does. Looks like we're in.
Go back. Right. There you go.
That was it. That was some satisfying.
With the bearing carriers lined up to every housing stud, we can safely say that we have successfully reassembled the main shaft, but there's still a lot of work to do. The counter shaft and gear change levers have to be assembled as well as a lot of calibrating and testing. But that's all we have time for today. Join us next Wednesday for your weekly tank restoration fix. So until then, I'm Kurt from Oz Armour, and I'll see you on the next one.